Well, the autism program largely grew out of this work and of doing parenting programs in general. And when we train group leaders to deliver this program, they will receive a therapist manual. The parents will get a book on autism that matches up with the program that they're seeing. We get laminated cards that we use to give demonstrations of how to use visuals with these children. And we have our turtle puppet, who's ever present in our program, who helps a lot. I'll just, hi, how are you? I'm Tiny Turtle. I'm going to show you how you can calm down by going in your shell. So we use puppets a lot with these children because this is where children are at this age, because we're working in the young age range, where they're really in and out of fantasy and reality. And we have videos that we show, and I'll show some of these to you today. These videos they're on DVD or USB and are streamed as well.
Factor provides balance.
So some of the signals of children with ASD, I'm presuming many of you probably know this, or perhaps you have children on the spectrum, or perhaps you're working with children on the spectrum from this audience. And so I call them signals. The S is for that the children's social interactions and their verbal communication is impaired with parents and adults. And
highly sensitive children.
Statistically,
Alrighty, greetings minions and associates. If you are already a minion, you would like to tithe, please hit like. If you would like to become a minion, please hit follow. If you would like to confess, please do so in the comments. And if you would like to evangelize, please hit follow. So what's up with you folks today? I think on Fridays now, I'm going to do a special show in which I focus on something in particular. And I have no idea what to call it. Fantastic Fridays, who knows? I have no clue whatsoever. So hopefully you guys can help me out with that. I'm going to jump right in here. Interesting. All right, so let's get into it. First story out of Iowa. I really haven't looked at these so far, so I have no idea what I'm getting into. Wait, I thought this was yeah. Okay, this is very strange.
Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back!
This doesn't have anything. Get back! Okay, whatever that was. Did not have anything to do with us. Okay, a beloved teacher was fired Monday following an investigation that she used security cameras and sounded the alarm on fellow educator who allegedly abused a nonverbal. What? So she was fired, but the person who abused a nonverbal student wasn't fired. Okay. Elementary school, Amanda Denzel's contract after she spent several months on paid leave. One of Dizali's former students, 7-year-old Keaton Patek, reportedly bloodied himself inside a classroom when he slammed his head into the hard floor while an unnamed teacher stood by and failed to intervene. Patek is a nonverbal severe with. Now, why are they giving the kid's name in this? What is so fucking important about having this child's name out there? One of my students who is autistic and nonverbal was harmed by another educator to the point there was blood in my classroom. Yeah, I don't blame her for... I don't know what all those has. The next day I went in and watched the cameras, and what I saw was my student's IEP and behavior plan not being followed, and the result was serious injury to him. I saw the teacher standing over him, allowing him to do self-harm, and using her foot to push him down the hall. He was crying out while in the fetal position. Now they got a picture of him too. Wow. So the students' behavior plan and had precautions in place in case his behavior got to self-abuse. So when his behavior plan states that any type of situation Keaton is triggered and banging his head on any object on the ground, the adult will immediately intervene and block his head with safety cushions. That is supposed to be followed up with a nurse evaluating him. That did not happen, obviously. A school nurse evaluated Keaton and later called his mother to inform her his son had been hitting his head, breaking open a scab on his ear, but was immediately tended to by the special ed teacher. Teacher said that the kid or a student or a teacher would be out for a few days. Denzel reportedly shared her concerns about the teacher's behavior. Then on May 30th, when I was notified by another employee that an incident had occurred involving our son and that they were told not to say anything or to speak about it to parents. Right, of course. We couldn't believe it. We didn't know what to do. We were very upset, hurt, and scared. Well, and they're not going to admit that to that either, not knowing what happened and wondering what we were about to see. Damn. This is like freaking goes on and on and on. It looks like it's closing up here, though. Good morning, Tyler. Or good evening, Tyler. What's up? I ought to have you come on here with me. That's what I ought to do. I was thinking about that yesterday. So, guess what? I got special fun news. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, this is fun stuff. Where is it? Okay. Oh, I know where it is. Right here. Watch this. What? Oh. I gotta go to my other account here real quick. Yeah, you're gonna like this. I had a special letter today. I got it. How's that? How does the Blues Clues think? I got a letter. I wonder what's inside. I wonder what's inside. Yeah. So yeah, this is exactly what's going on here. Come on. Yes, I got a letter from Autism Speaks. Yes, I did. I got a real email from Autism Speaks. Come on. Why is it not doing it for me? Okay, fine. We'll just do it this way. Oh, come on. There we go. Yes, I got a letter. Dear Mr. Page, thank you for reaching out. We are so grateful to all members of the media who are interested in speaking with us. Unfortunately, due to the number of requests we receive, we are unable to accommodate everyone. You know, particularly, I don't know, an autistic person. we don't have time to accommodate an autistic person. We will not be able to do an interview at this time, but would welcome you to join one of our small community conversations if you're interested. Please let me know if there's more information, if you'd like more information, and this is something, and if this is something you'd like to take part in. My response, I held back, Tyler. I was really nice. We obviously know this is a blatant lie because you do not wish your highly questionable behaviors of this corporation to be called into question. I held back. But I will say I would love to be interviewed on Eileen's show where she speaks to actually autistic people. I will continue to redouble my efforts due to this malicious slight. I will always be available to be civil if you are willing. I will not stop until I get an interview. I am autistic and I will not let this go. And I followed it up. You blatantly said that you were too busy to speak to an actually autistic person. Perhaps you would wish to reconsider. I will make this my life's mission. My son is dead and I have nothing to lose. Please take the time for one autistic person, or are you too busy to help just one autistic person? That was my response. Oopsie. But I just thought it was so funny. I mean, every time they actually write me, it gets worse. They're literally saying we're too busy for an autistic person. An autistic person of the media. They consider me a media person, by the way. So with that, I'm going to start calling myself a journalist because I am a media person according to Autism Speaks. So I am officially a journalist. Oh, I know they're not busy at all. And and it's the beginning of May, Autistic Awareness Month, so they probably aren't getting all those big fat donations that they were before. But yeah, I thought that was quite humorous. They are too busy to speak to an autistic person. Autism Speaks is too busy to speak. No, and you know, it's really sad that it's not illegal what they're doing. It really is. So anyway, I was working on this little Iowa story. Being a teacher is my favorite part of life. I love my kids. I love going to school. They took that from me when they put me on leave. I think parents need to know that this can happen in their school's district. If you lose sight of kids' safety, then what are you doing in this district? So this teacher saw another teacher basically abusing a autistic child because the autistic child was a headbanger and banged their head on the floor. The IEP stated that they were supposed to immediately get pillows or whatever to protect the kid's head when that happened, and they had all that available, and the teacher just decided to watch him instead. This other teacher saw it on camera, so she reported it to the parents, and they had been instructed not to tell the parents about these things that were going on, so she got fired for telling the kids' parents what was going on. Supporters of Danzel protest, I'm calling her Danzel, demanding the teacher be allowed back in the classroom. Yeah, of course. Like, she speaks out about child safety and then she gets fired. Yeah. We were deeply disappointed by the superintendent's recommendation and the board's decision. We are not done with this fight. Yeah, the teachers, the school board has decided to, as a whole, has decided to cover it up. That is not the kind of school I want my kids in. Wow. What town is this in? It's in Iowa. Webster Elementary School, wherever that is. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Oh, I have a friend, Mage. You will meet Mage at some point in time, probably. Um, anyway, Mage is like a super autistic researcher. In fact, I made the suggestion that he should work for YouTubers and so forth and do fact checking because he's that good at it. So he recommended like three or four different search engines for me to find more articles. Yeah, it is. It is crazy. It is crazy. It is. Isn't it horrible? Well, this is the thing, though. I've got. I can make I can make videos about this. This is material for a long time. Just on that email alone, I can make so many videos about that, and I will. You know. Um. Yeah, I know. I know. Isn't it sad too that they have these people that don't know much about autism that are representing Autism Speaks? I think that's
If you're an
really
autism
sad.
mom, chances are you're struggling
Okay, this is actually a longer one, but I am very interested in this. Unfortunately, I think this
with a
woman.
picky eater. With that, there are a host
Okay, she's speaking where I can understand her. I thought she was Indian for just a second. Forgive me. And she could have been single or whatever, or married. I don't know about the dot thing, but anyway, I that would be single. But anyway, and it also depends on that particular culture. But I cannot understand Indians, Asian Indians. I cannot understand them. That's how it sounds to me, unfortunately, and it's due to my audio processing disorder.
of other problems that you're working against. And let's face it, good diet is the foundation for any kind of healing to happen. Hi, I'm Farah Danish.
Okay, so why are we doing this? I'm gonna wait on this one. See if I can. Okay, we can bring it down to 720 maybe. And I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to bring this one down a little bit too. Bring it down to 720. Maybe it'll perform a little better. I got a lot of tabs.
Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity,
That's like a really weird name for a channel.
increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow.
The period cure. Okay. That's pretty much what she's saying, the period cure.
Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your hostess, femininity coach, and author of The Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So we got
Get on the rag and be cured, I guess.
we got a little bit more on Amanda. She too big. Amanda, you too big, baby. Bookie, you too old, Bookie. At your big age to be lying and then having to backpedal and then having to double down. She don't know whether she want to double down or backpedal on this whole autism thing. And you wouldn't even be in this position had you not at your 42 years of big age got on Shannon Sharp's internet and lied about a diagnosis of autism, and then not liking it that people were simply asking you about it. Did it feel like pressure because you lied? Now you feel pressed to talk about it and things of that nature. So when people ask you about it, now there's all this obfuscating, there's all of this deflection, and there's all of this gaslighting that is now going on. Like I said, she doesn't know whether she want to double down.
Do you know anything about this thing?
Or she want to backpedal. And all at the same time trying to throw Shannon's show under the bus. This is an atrocious person.
How do I not know?
Just Amanda.
This is 9 hours ago. Okay, I'm gonna look up Shannon Sharp here because I was a huge Shannon Sharp fan. He was a Denver Bronco, and of course I live in Pueblo. Shannon Sharp news. Antonio Brown fires at Shannon Sharp with mean joking about his sexuality. Okay. Shannon Sharp under fire. How did I not find this article? Or is it just too soon, too recent? Shannon Sharp under fire for invalidating Amanda Seales' experiences with autism and racism. And so this lady was saying, yeah, maybe. Yeah, this is listed at 3:50 Pacific time, so that's 5 6. Oh, dang, this is like an hour ago. In a 3-hour interview, on the last episode of Club Shay Shay, the former NFL star actor, I didn't know he was acting, comedian Amanda Seales about everything from her recent autism diagnosis to her rumored feud with Issa Rae. Well, if she had a diagnosis, how do we know that she had a diagnosis? We have criticized Sharp since the episode was released on Wednesday. What episode? Episode of what? Shannon Sharp's podcast. Ooh, do we need to go?
Are you
down
tired
this
of dealing with
hole
worn out windows that don't seal,
Should we go
leak,
down this
or
rabbit hole
are hard to open? Maybe
of Shannon Sharp?
She is a young person. Do you know how disgusting that is? And that cornball who loves to make himself look like he's the white people's savior.
Who said that?
Emmanuel Akko.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Come talk to me, white people. I'm the black guy that's nice.
Well, okay. This is 3 hours long, so I am not going to go and try to find the highlights of that. I wish I could, but I'm going to. Okay, we can also find out some things here in a minute on video, because people will start putting on montages together pretty quick. So I might go on to other news and then come right back to it. The conversation grows tense throughout, with Sharp apologizing to the actor at one point in time is coming off combative. Seales said she had recently been diagnosed with autism and noted that black women often go diagnosed because of lack of research. Black women, girls are on the spectrum, yes. She said she's often felt misunderstood by people. And you know what? I'm going to take her at her word. I don't know who she is or anything else, but if someone says that they were formally diagnosed, I'm going to take them at their word for it. I'm not going to demand that they produce paperwork or anything. So I don't know what this other girl's talking about with her, I guess, lying about it.
This is not a good person. This is a person that don't have no integrity.
How does this lady know that she lied, though? That's what I want to know.
Or anything. She just wants praise, and she wants to be held on a pedestal and her butt kissed. She doesn't want to have any accountability. She doesn't want anybody to point out when she's doing ridiculous things and saying foolishness. And everybody's supposed to nod and smile when she talks, no matter what she's talking about or how crazy it is.
Okay, so this is very much like a cult person talks. We're making all kinds of accusation, and she's just going on making accusations. She's pretending. She's not actually autistic, but she isn't providing any evidence or.
Now she want to get mad when you don't go along with it. That's her not getting along with people. Her not getting along with people means that she wasn't able to say whatever crazy meant came out of the left field of her brain, and they just nod and smile and go with it. If they questioned it or they challenged it or they flat out disagreed with it or they flat out told her she was wrong, she don't like that. And she gonna get in her bag and she gonna get in her feelings whenever that happens, no matter if it happens to a small degree or a larger degree. Now listen to this backfoot babble. as she talked. I just want y'all to hear this foolishness. Just
Okay,
hear
let's
it.
do it. Let's do
To
it.
the discovery of your autism. But what do you want people to either know about autism or the fact that you recently discovered that you have autism? There's a lot of talk about whether or not the diagnosis was clinical, or what would you like
want
to
to
say
say
about
this.
that?
First, I want to say it is so wild to see people pick and choose when they want to believe doctors and when they don't. Like, I just think that that's one thing that's
Okay, so we're deflecting a little bit.
wild.
She's not answering the
Two,
question.
I think that it's a lot of people that do not know anything about autism. I've seen people say things like, "Well, I can't have a
Are you autistic or are you not autistic? Were you diagnosed or were you not diagnosed? It's that simple. That's the question.
I can't say
And not that it really matters, but
that I got diagnosed with cancer if a doctor didn't diagnose me for cancer." And it's like, well, ma'am, cancer is something that you test for with blood and with actual biological things. Autism is a neurological disorder. It is a different set of
To the discovery of your autism.
the waiting lists are often for years, and especially for Black women, the only studies for autism to at length
that dude's like, are you gonna get to it or
have
what?
really been for young white boys.
Oh wow.
I talked about this I talked about this in the interview, and they cut it out of the interview. So the autism, yeah. So the majority of pathology around
There was 3 hours of an interview there. I don't think they cut anything out. If it's the Shannon Sharp interview she's talking about.
autism is done on young white boys, and so even girl children don't get properly diagnosed. And many parents have come in my DM saying, "Thank you so much for talking about this, because we have gone through so much struggles to get a diagnosis." And for the most part, the clinical diagnosis.
So I think she was being dishonest because she has completely deflected that question and she moved right on.
Is a wide-ranging meaning. So clinical doesn't have to simply mean by a physician. It can mean by a psychologist.
What? Okay, clinical means by a person who is certified to do that. That's what clinical means. By a doctor, by someone certified to give that diagnosis. It's not subjective.
It can mean by a psychiatrist. It can mean by someone who is an autism expert that has a master's degree, and a different set of testing. And the testing that is done is incredibly expensive and often is not even able to be had by adults. The waiting lists are often for years, and especially for Black women, the only.
And where are these waiting lists? I've never heard of
And
them
here
in the
we
United
go
States.
with the Black women, with the racial disparity.
But that's real.
And she just say whatever. She didn't answer this woman's question.
No, she didn't.
The fact that the woman had to kind of tiptoe around just saying, okay, so you lied about the clinical diagnoses of autism.
Okay, and this is the thing. This is why I agree that she's lying, because she was trying to redefine what clinical diagnosis was. And so that she just flat out, you know what, she could have just been like, oops, I made a mistake. It sounded like I was saying that I got a clinical diagnosis, but I didn't. Whatever. It doesn't matter either way. Self-diagnosis is valid, but this woman's just being deceitful, I think, just from watching her. It's
So
pretty obvious.
how do you want to speak to that? Right. She couldn't just come out and say that. She had to say, well, when you recently discovered you were autistic. She Googled it. Okay? She Googled it. And then she danced around everything. And then she threw Shannon. Shannon called her stray. They cut that out of the interview. It's called editing. She's trying to say it like they cut her voice short.
Yeah.
And that they,
I don't know.
you know, the editing
funny.
was there to misrepresent what she said, or to take what she said out of context, or to misconstrue the context of what she was talking about.
Okay, I'm bored with this one, but yeah, she was lying through her butt. Okay, this is an interesting one. Unfortunately. Okay, where's the volume?
University next week as part of the Leadership and Career Studies program. Now, surveillance released yesterday, that is, shows Isaiah on a Broad Street line.
And then we get an ad. Come on. What's going on here? I took out Facebook today. Because I was having trouble with my internet. I really want to keep Kick up. I don't want to. I'll get rid of it. Instagram, I guess, before I get rid of Kick. Let's close out Instagram, maybe. There, maybe that'll help a little bit. This is so weird. Look at it now. It's
Subway about 8:30 that Thursday night. Police say the suspect assaulted. Accepted Transit police are searching for whoever assaulted a man with autism on a subway back on March 14th. Isaiah Miller is set to graduate from Temple University next week as part of the Leadership and Career Studies program. Now, surveillance released yesterday, that is, shows Isaiah on a Broad Street line subway about 8:30 that Thursday night. Police say the suspect assaulted the 25-year-old as the train approached the Cecil B. Moore station. Now, Isaiah suffered injuries to his face there, and we actually spoke to his mother tonight, who explains what he said happened.
He texted me that he was aware that a man was following him. He was walking away, walked into the next caboose, and the man continued to follow him. I see Isaiah getting sucker punched, dragged, to the ground, punched in the face repeatedly.
Isaiah's mom says that she was overwhelmed with grief seeing the video, that somebody could actually do that to another person, and she's urging the suspect to turn himself in.
Okay. Is that it? Oh my goodness, that was it. Well, that's like not telling us much. That's a bummer. What the heck? Okay, you know this
Jacob
guy.
Tilk and his brother.
I want to see what this story is. We're gonna have to do some cars on this.
Max taking the internet by storm.
How do you feel?
Their social media channel called My Brother Max highlights Max's everyday life, including his triumphs and challenges with autism.
Now to get the cookie tray.
That's right. I wanted to expose people to autism and what that is and what that means.
Their social media dates back to 2008 when they were in their early teens.
By the way, I think this dude really loves his. I think this dude here loves the hell out of his brother. I've seen his videos, and I don't think it's he did it for like trying to get any attention or anything else. He may have now, but I think this dude's pretty damn genuine from everything I could see. He never like puts his brother down or infantilizes him or whatever. He interacts with him and everything.
Always my best.
And his brother does a lot of things that people would consider to be childlike or whatever, but he does not infantilize his brother. If his brother wants to play with something, his brother's playing with something.
We were always together every single day.
Jake says one of the hardest parts about growing up was that he couldn't always be there for Max.
There was somebody that bullied Max every single day on the school bus, and I wasn't able to be there actively to protect him, but I would go get him from the bus stop after school, and there was this kid that
No boy.
Yeah, not anymore.
Now, Max has plenty of new friends online. The duo hitting 1 million followers on TikTok.
How does the TikTok make you feel?
Good.
How does making videos with your brother make you feel?
Better.
I didn't really expect it to
cool.
blow up to the dimensions it did and to kind of have this like impact on people, but I'm really proud of my brother.
Max has spoken.
And I think he's totally true. I moved 400 miles. Oh, that is so cool.
Graphic memory and is a
That is so
savant
cool,
with
Tyler.
dates. He can pinpoint which day of the
I'm telling you, I think you should probably
week, any particular day.
Okay, so Tyler, I've come up with an idea, and maybe you can help me with it. On Fridays, I want to do, I'm thinking maybe tomorrow I might do it on the Autism Caucus, but pick a special story to focus on each Friday and just dive into it. I don't know what to call it, though. Focus Group Friday? Or I don't know. But I think that might be fun to do instead of just doing news, do like a special kind of thing.
It was, no matter the year.
Maxie, what year was JFK assassinated?
1963.
What year did Martin Luther King have the I Have a Dream speech?
1963.
Yep. What year did Walt Disney and his brother Roy found the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio, also known as Walt
Deep
Disney?
dive Friday.
1920.
There you go.
What day of the week was April 30th, 2017?
Sunday.
Yes.
But Max's favorite things to do?
Cut grass, help with Dad.
He loves chores around the house, video games, and baking. He has his own job as a baker for the Michigan Cookie Project in Detroit.
I want people out there to know that people with autism have value. It doesn't even have to be autism. It could be any sort of neurodivergence. Treat them with kindness, empathy, and respect. And I think that that is a really important thing that the world could benefit from.
Cookies are complete.
Cheers.
Cheers the cookies.
Cheers.
Win, ABC News, Detroit.
Okay.
Today is Max's
That one's badass. That was a cool story. They didn't infantilize him at all. That was good to go. Hey, yeah, that was really good to go. I'm I'm
Made it simple.
They provide a new menu every week with delicious, nutritious meals.
It's so convenient. It's just delivered right to your door.
The meals can be heated in the oven or microwave in minutes.
You choose your meal.
Somebody's got to say it. And
oh no. Okay, I like this creator. I follow her, and what I just caught off of hearing this, flipping through, I was kind of appalled. Maybe I misunderstood her. I didn't watch the whole thing. Let's take a look and see what she has to say.
apparently it's going to be me. You aren't seeing equal representation of the autism spectrum on social media. If you can use your native language fluently, learn a variety of social rules, keep yourself safe without adult supervision, but occasionally punch yourself in the head when things go wrong, you might have the just a little different type of autism. But
that's what got me. The just a little bit different autism. That is completely undermining every autistic person there is that isn't extremely high support needs. Well, you just got a little bit of the tism. That's basically like saying, well, you're not really autistic. That's the way I take it. Maybe she didn't intend it that way, but that's the way it sounded to me. I know that brother's so cool, and I think he was so completely genuine.
express yourself reliably, struggle to understand a variety of language concepts, and occasionally bite the nearest person when you have a headache, you might have the disorder type of autism. Those of us perceived as just a little different are featured in movies, documentaries, and theatrical productions. But those of us perceived as disordered are only featured in medical journals, therapeutic conferences, and case studies. The correct term, the term we need to be talking about a lot more,
That part's true. That is true.
is profound autism, which is defined by...
And no, that's why we have ASD. And that's why people are so upset about the whole ASB supremacy thing. Because you are just autistic, period. I realize we have different support needs, and those can change throughout our life. But you are autistic or you are not autistic. You are a human or you are not a human. You have an autistic brain or you do not have an autistic brain. Now, as far as other disabilities, intellectual disabilities, or whatever else that may compound and make that experience much more difficult, yes, that absolutely exists. But if you're autistic, you're autistic. If you've got other issues, you have other issues. Each issue, my Ehlers-Danlos needs to be addressed as Ehlers-Danlos, not autism. My narcolepsy needs to be addressed as narcolepsy, not part of autism. My, you can go on and on and on like that, but you can't conflate them. And you certainly don't want to put classifications on autistic people. There is a disparity of representation of those who have communication difficulties, of course, and those who cannot communicate at all. That sucks, and that's what life is. That's how it is.
Exhibiting minimal communication, having an IQ less than 50, and requiring 24-hour supervision. And I know what you're thinking.
And this is hypothetical that she's making up. There is no such thing as severe autism. This is some crap some people have been making up recently. And it's not good for the entire autism movement. It just isn't. We don't want to make those kind of degrees of separation.
but it's just a small portion of the autism spectrum.
Although we do have to properly identify people's support needs.
But it's not. According to the CDC, 26% of autistic people fit the criteria for profound autism. By definition,
No, they do not. No.
by definition, most profoundly autistic
No.
are profound autism.
Let's take a look at what you're talking about. The new estimate, first based on CDC and whatever falls in the middle range. There's nothing about, quote, profound autism. There is nothing. The CDC does not use the term profound autism anywhere.
26%
of prevention is not profound. Prevention's autism is not profound. Developmental disabilities monitoring
of autistic people fit the criteria for profound autism. By definition, most profoundly autistic people aren't using social media in the traditional sense. Just because you don't see people like them as much as you do people like me doesn't mean that they aren't real or aren't important, because they are. Please keep the most vulnerable of our community in mind.
We know this, but you really shouldn't be using these terms that don't
acceptance
exist.
And awareness.
Hello.
I think she has a really good
I'm David
intentions
Miliband,
there,
President
but
and
I think her
CEO of the
delivery
International
sucks.
Rescue Committee. Our humanitarian focus.
I would put it more in the perspective of all support need level autistics need to be taken into consideration, particularly those who cannot communicate for themselves. I think that's how I would put that, and that accomplishes the same thing without being as inadvertently ableist.
We're hearing from the family of a Bay Area teenager with autism.
So on that one, I don't know. She had good intentions. I'm only giving her. I'm giving her 5 things. She got good kid points on that one. That was a little prejudice on my part. She just got good kid points.
Was once worried about whether or not he'd even be able to talk. As KTV's Claudine Wong reports, the boy's communication skills blossomed once he was introduced to the guitar.
I think she is a wonderful kid. I commend her for what she's doing. I cannot express. She's doing a million times more than I am. So, by all means, I have no right to, quote, criticize her, and I wouldn't as a person. But on that little thing, I think it was just a little bit off, but she's great people. I would love to speak with her, give her a hug, whatever. Good people.
With every note, every word, every strum of his guitar, you get another glimpse of 17-year-old Ryan Woodard, a side of him that for many years, people could not see.
What saved my life is music, and it helps me express myself. People with autism can have a hard time with communicating and have social interactions with others.
Ryan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Communication was so difficult that he was considered nonverbal until he was 9 or 10.
He would just say, hello, hello, hello. He would just say hi to he would meet you and say hi 50 times because that's what he learned how to say. The term for that is echolalia. So he could actually repeat things in short phrases, but nothing beyond that.
He worked for years.
And I do it just spontaneously sometimes.
With teachers and speech therapists and was making progress. But then something remarkable happened. His dad, who was always looking for ways to connect, bought him a game where he could plug in a guitar and play songs.
And then next thing you know, he knew 50 songs. And I was like, okay, well, if you can learn another 50 and get a certain score, I'll buy you a guitar. 2 weeks later, I had to buy him a guitar.
The rest, as they say, is history. But Ryan didn't just sing.
Good dad.
He soared.
Good dad.
Today, he's the lead singer of the Ryan Woodard Band. He's a member of the School of Rock. And last year, he had a packed touring schedule.
That's cool.
And even in this journey, filled with incredible moments, there are some that just take your breath away.
What you'll see here is me meeting Ryan.
Oh, this dude's badass. I've seen him. He is badass. And I think I've seen this one too.
And for the first time.
This is Ryan meeting social media musician Guitaro 5000 on a trip to Southern.
Yeah, he just casually walks up to this dude and is like, "Yeah, can we play or whatever?" And then just knocks this dude's socks off.
California. He asks strangers a simple question: "Sing with me."
And then so I came up to him and asked him, like, what kind of music do you like?
And he was badass. I
he said
remember.
he likes tons of music. And then I requested Gravity by John Mayer. And then I sang with him. He's a nice guy. He has like a great soul. He's showing human kindness to me.
Gravity.
Listen to that.
Is working against me.
The video went viral, and it got so much attention that even John Mayer noticed. And then one day, this arrived.
What is it?
What does it look like?
It's a guitar.
My dad brought in this big box, and we were seeing, like, who's it from? It was from John.
John? It's from John. John who?
John Mayer!
Yes.
Oh my gosh! And then we just opened it up, got the guitar case, and then just like opened up the guitar case and just pulled out the guitar.
Ryan, you sound great. Here's a little something to help you keep expressing yourself. Your friend, John. Oh my gosh!
Ryan is now living a life his dad says they never dreamed was possible.
I tell him every day. I talk to my wife all the time. I was like, you know what? If he just didn't do one more thing, it's 100 times more than we ever expected.
Did that fix it right there?
The video went viral, and it got so much attention that even John Mayer noticed. And then one day, this arrived.
What is it?
Can you hear it now?
What does it look like?
It's a guitar.
My dad brought in this big box, and we were seeing, like, who's it from? It was from John.
John? It's from John. John who?
John Mayer!
Yes.
I'll be down.
Oh my gosh! And then we just opened it up, got the guitar case, and then just like opened up the guitar case and just pulled out the guitar.
Ryan, you sound
That's
great.
a bummer.
Here's a little something to help you keep expressing yourself. Your friend, John. Oh my gosh!
Ryan is now living a life his dad says they never dreamed was possible.
I tell him every day.
Basically, John Mayer gave this kid a guitar, and I don't know why the volume is not working on this one. That's really weird, because it's showing, everything's showing that it's working. We'll move on. I'm going to find out about that one.
First of all, I'm so
again,
sorry for the
maybe.
loss of Caitlin. From what I've read about her, she sounded like an accomplished and wonderful young woman. The cause of death recorded by the inquest as suicide.
Oh,
But you feel that it didn't tell the full story of Caitlin's death and the part that autism may have played in that. Can you explain a bit more to us?
Well, even going into the inquest, I myself didn't feel like I was particularly searching for anything. The only thing that mattered to me was Caitlin, and she was not going to be coming back at the end of this 3-day inquest. But throughout these 3 days, I have wondered, and as the coroner has presided and spoken, I wondered to what extent autism did have a part to play in the decisions that Caitlin took.
You yourself have been diagnosed with autism. Caitlin was diagnosed while she was at boarding school, so she was going through that journey while she was at school. And it wasn't until this inquest started that you started learning about the links between autism and suicide. What do the statistics, what does the research tell us at this?
Isn't it crazy that every day I come up with something like this? That there's another suicide story?
Yeah. Well, very interestingly, I had already been quite a strong advocate for neurodiversity a good 5 to 10 years before this tragic event happened. Out in Asia, I've been raising awareness of the benefits that neurodiversity can bring. It was only a day after I heard my daughter had died.
I'm telling you, you ought to consider, maybe even just going on Fridays or something, but I think you would be great to bounce off of. You keep me going.
That I had started learning about the risks associated as well. And what I do know now is that 1 in 3 autistic people have suicidal ideation, and 1 in 4 have attempted suicide. And that's 25%. That's huge.
That's awesome.
Ultimately,
I'd really love to do
one
that.
in
I would be
7
privileged.
autistic people die by suicide. And that's a horrific figure that we should certainly look into and explore and see what can be done.
If an autistic person is feeling suicidal, they may not show signs that...
You know, the thing is with my son, like my daughter, she's expressed that ideation for years and years and years. And it doesn't mean that she wasn't serious either. What it means was she actually said aloud what she was thinking. My son didn't. And he just suddenly took his life.
Non-autistic people typically expect. This is from the organisation Autistica, research they've done, because autistic people have differences in communicating, expressing emotions and interacting with other people. Structure and routine may mean that someone appears fine from the outside when they may be struggling. Some people might not want to talk about it.
Yeah, and see, that was exactly the case with my son. And I had tried to get him to go to mental health. His mother had tried to get him to go to mental health. His sister had tried to get him to go to mental health. But he's a PDA autistic, and if you really pushed him, it'd make it even worse. It'd make it even more difficult. They teach your kids.
The inquest had a unique insight into Caitlin as well, because they had access to her diary that she kept for 5 years. And again, that went into some of her thoughts about being diagnosed with autism and the journey she was...
Yeah, today I had the second meltdown that I've had in a month, and both of them were trying to call my doctor. And the reason is they have a call center that you call. You don't call the doctor's office. Well, then they start asking for your personal information, like your address, your social security number, all this stuff like that, just to consider whether they're going to connect you with the office. And then they may or may not actually get you connected with the office. And if they do, and they're supposed to like call back, they don't. Anyway, so it ends up being like and then they hang up on you and you lose the line and all this. Well, I was supposed to talk to my counselor like 6 weeks ago, but just because I was trying to avoid a meltdown, I didn't talk to him at all. I won't even call him now. I told him, I says, you need to make some kind of accommodation to where I can just call you directly if I need to talk to you, because it is not worth the meltdown. You know? Oh, I know. I know. That is so weird. I have heard that so often when you're trying to explain to someone what's going on with your autism or whatever, and they're like, well, you don't address me like that. You don't talk to me like that. And I'm like, well, you quit being such a rude, ableist. Oh.
was on. Do you think that was considered enough when the coroner took into account? Do you think there was enough educational awareness about suicide and autism at that inquest to fully understand what happened to Caitlin?
From what I understand, the coroner himself highlighted how unique, very, very, were the words, very, very unique this particular inquest was, in that Caitlin had left a very comprehensive 5-year record of her thoughts.
Oh, you know, my stepmother and my parents called me a liar in my entire childhood. Like when I said I forgot my homework. And I know that is so freaking cheesy and stuff like that. Well, you just remember it next time. Or we'll set an alarm or whatever. Well, okay, if you set an alarm, you have to turn the alarm off, which sets off the PADA. But once you turn off the alarm, what happens next? And what were you supposed to be reminded of? Because what can happen is you turn off the alarm, but then a bird chirps or something like that, and you completely forget what you were doing, and you go investigate the bird, or the turd, if that's the case, and you forget about what you were doing, and that alarm doesn't do you any good. And that's something that they don't take into consideration. So I often ask people when they say, well, you should just set an alarm. Okay, fine. I set the alarm goes off, I turn it off. You tell me what I'm supposed to do. Well, how can I know? Well, exactly. How the hell am I supposed to know? It doesn't work like that with me because that's not how my brain works. I mean, yes, it can work sometimes, but I can't
And
rely on it.
That spanned from pretty much her beginning, Wickham Abbey School in 2018, and right up until the day before she died. Now, that was read, parts of that were read by interested parties, such as the school, the NHS, myself, Caitlin's mother. But it was not reviewed by
Looks just
experts.
like Daddy.
And I do find myself wondering whether more can be done to understand.
A letter signed by medical experts and charities has been sent to the government to ask for more funding and commitment to looking at this problem. Tom Purse, the CEO of the
And
Autistic...
Dad's badass too. He's not trying to... He is truly speaking on behalf of autism. He's not trying to come out... Really? Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to try an... That is so weird. What is going on? Huh. I have everything turned all the way up. Let's see. Globe. I'm going to go to this one. I'm just going to crank it. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to try to crank it real quick, and we'll see if it works.
Autism Centre said Caitlin's inquest has demonstrated that despite schools and the NHS doing their best, because you don't blame the school, and you know she saw her GP, she was involved with medical professionals. Tom Purser said it's too frequently not enough to prevent the most tragic of outcomes.
Okay, did that help?
Do you think more could have been done for Caitlin if there was better understanding of the links between autism and suicide?
Yeah, well, okay, perhaps being autistic myself, I have a quite unique perspective on life, and I think of things in terms of probabilities. So all we are trying to do is in terms of
monitor and know how loud it actually is.
Or Autistica, or like National Autistic Society, or Papyrus.
There you go. That looks about right.
And sending this letter to the government is that we're simply trying to reduce the probability that future suicides will, occur, and impair the ability for individuals who wish to
You totally got me dialed in on that.
So that they fail.
Now I know how to look at my
And if we can do that and help,
now I know how to look at my monitor and understand it because it's got a little.
Perhaps other parents will not be traversing that path of grief that I now traverse. But the very irony is that they will never know. So I hope
going
we do
up and down the volume levels.
And I'm simply a voice. There's nothing remarkable about me. But there are lots of these experts and charities who are good at what they do. We should support them. And I will speak on their behalf should I be of any help.
All in Caitlin's memory. Jonathan, if I can I just end by asking how you'll remember Caitlin?
I wonder whether I will remember all the parts. Most notably, the very first day I brought her home. The sun was shining, and I'll always remember that feeling. But I tried to do my best on the 6,041 days that she lived. I now mourn and grieve the fact that I thought I would have a lot longer, but it didn't. So I'd encourage everybody watching tonight simply just to hug your child or hug your loved one, because that's something that I can no longer do.
Jonathan, that's a wonderful sentiment to end on. You've come out of something so dark.
He is so mild-mannered, so cool. He is so mild-mannered, unlike me.
Someone finds out I'm autistic, I want them to know that autism looks different in everyone, especially in me. I would say, and I get this quite a lot, when you look at me, the first thing that people see isn't autism. And that's completely okay, because I know that it doesn't come across as something very easily for everyone with how I am, just because I am so well composed. But it's also not a look as well to be recognized with. Autism,
You know, it's not a look. Autism is not a look. Although she's Australian and she does kind of have that look of a long lineage of criminals, just saying, kind of has that shifty long lineage of criminals, like maybe her founding fathers were all criminals or something. I'm just saying.
is different in everybody and is seen in a very, very unique way. And so, you know, for me to say, oh,
Her parents probably immigrated like last month from freaking England or something.
I am autistic, and someone to go, oh, but you don't look autistic. It's actually very highly offensive because that's them saying, well, you don't look disabled, when in fact we are disabled. It's just an invisible disability that we still show and characterize through our actions, our movements, our voice, and our social interactions, but also our understanding and our comprehension of things. And, you know, going from that, I just really want people to seek to understand and be kind and patient rather than judge. You know, look, don't just look at the cover of the book, actually understand the content when the back of the book is provided to tell you what it's about. And I'd say every autistic person, you know, has their own preferences, their sensitivities, and ways of experiencing the world. And so it's important that people are respectful of other people like myself with autism, and really go in with into that conversation with an open mind, and really listen to when someone says, I'm autistic, but this is how I'm affected with autism, instead of just going, they're autistic, and thinking of the one subject with it, when indeed it's a category of subjectives under the subject. So, and even if it's somebody else to say, I'm autistic, it's so important for people to just listen and, you know, want to be able to learn and be educated about what autism really is. And I think it's important that, you know, that stereotype doesn't become so fabricated over what autism really is. Autism is actually what makes our community a bit more special, and for people to wanting to be educated more about the wide spectrum of it as well is just, you know, what's going to make it even better for the future. That's amazing. How might I be able to help you and be supportive of you?
How weird. I'm trying to figure out if I'm live or not. Okay. I think I'm offline. I'm gonna have to come back on. Okay. That is so weird. All right.
Many autistic women will only have 3 to 7 days a month where they're symptom free. Let's expand our chat on the causation of PMDD. So studies show that women experiencing PMDD are very sensitive to the hormonal changes. Now, for some, it's been suggested this could be due to a serotonin deficiency. And in basic terms, serotonin is a brain hormone that controls your mood, makes you feel happy. Another cause, genetics. Another risk factor could be a personal or family history of mood disorders. But how about...
I think there's a connection between neurodivergency for sure. There's definitely a connection between neurodivergency and women's cycles.
This cause. It has been suggested that up to 83% of women who experience PMDD had experienced trauma early in life. 83% of women with PMDD experienced trauma early in their life. Wow.
That's interesting. I wonder why that correlates. What? That's really weird. Most armies ignore autistic people. Israeli is calling them up. Yeah, I tell you what, if you have a bunch of like drone operators or whatever else, you could do really well. Absolutely. Tel Aviv, Israel. Each day, Sergeant I scours. Okay. What do we have here? I'm going to see if I'm still on my channel. Yeah, for some reason I very briefly I ended up losing my my live there on TikTok because I hadn't interacted with TikTok enough. I'm gonna have to make myself a timer to tell myself to an audible. I'm gonna have to find an audible timer to tell me. Yeah, for some reason I very briefly I ended up losing my. Alrighty. He's a web specialist for an elite group of Israeli defense forces focused on open source research that informs high-level decision-making and can even reach the Prime Minister's desk. He is also autistic. Sergeant I, like some 150 others, isn't in the IDF by chance. He signed up to serve through whatever it is, a first-of-its-kind program that places autistic people in the military to use their valuable skills. Oh, imagine if you're in a special unit. Oh man, you and able to use your special interest or whatever. Oh man, yeah, they're really smart here doing this. Speaking to Insider from inside Hekera, the sprawling headquarters of IDF. And unfortunately, I'm not real happy about the IDF or Israel at all right now, but that nonetheless has nothing to do with the effectiveness of their organization due to hiring autistic people. He couldn't elaborate on the specifics of what he does. The IDF member spoke on the condition that the insider use initials or only their first name, citing the secrecy of their work. The IDF open source project might involve trawling social media and obscure sites for intel on everything from the effect of sanctions on the Iranian economy to the size of the Hezbollah arsenal. Hey, Tyler, you know what? I need to set my. I'm going to find a. I'm getting better every day, although it doesn't look at it. You see me make all my mistakes. How's the volume, first of all? Because I just switched to another scene here, just for giggles. Like here's another scene here. Let me see if I can find a scene that I just went through everything, went through everything again. I'm gonna just go to the main camera, and I'll figure this stuff out tomorrow or tonight. Okay, if I can find the main camera. There it is. Alrighty. Which background is that? This one? I'm kind of playing around with building my different backgrounds and so forth. And I'm trying to do it for free. Let me see. But yeah, like I can put in the fish, or I can switch it and make it a globe if I want to. Yeah, there's the Earth from one of the satellites. Hey, Snazzy, how you doing? Okay, you want fish. So what are we going to call Friday, by the way? I'm going to go back and actually try to continue here. Yeah, what was it that you came up with before on for Fridays? It was pretty good. I liked it. Anyway, typical IDF open source project might involve trawling social media. The IDF minder sat in the meeting room throughout, ready to intervene. Accidentally divulged, in case the sergeant accidentally divulged anything classified. So once again, like I said, I'm not real happy with Israel right now, but the fact that Israel is wise enough to hire autistic people for the military to use their specialties is absolutely amazing and brilliant. It really is, no matter how horribly they are behaving right now. They're literally, well, yeah, Deep Dive Friday. I love it. I love it. Deep Dive Friday. Yes, that is good. And I think that's a good thing to do too on Fridays. That will help me on the news cycle a little bit too. You know what I'm saying? Do you want to join me? For the first Deep Dive Friday. If so, let me know and we can okay, we'll get on Discord on the Autistic Page. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Or else Twitter is at Ledoux David. Boom. Okay, moving right along. That's awesome. I'm really excited. He'd always been taught in special education classes, so he wasn't so conscious about doing this before he joined the IDF and started working in an office aside neurotypical soldiers. So yes, I've had to adapt. Yeah, that would be really hard, actually, only being in special ed classes, and all of a sudden now you're an expert on stuff, right? Ooh, boy. Sergeant I is a graduate of wherever, an innovative Israeli program founded in 2013 to match young adults on the autism spectrum with military professions that need manpower. Remember how I've been talking about how important using autistic people's talents instead of just looking for laborers. Now, the Russians right now, they would just look for someone to put a gun in their hand. So all they would want is a bullet catcher. The IDF here, once again, I do not agree with their politics at all right now. At all. Genocide comes to mind. And they should know the hell about genocide. That's what pisses me off about the Israel right now. Yeah, it also pisses me off the fact that we're supporting the Ukrainians, which is great because that is genocide that's being committed, and I think that's wonderful. But we shouldn't be supporting genocide on the other side. That's freaking insane. You know what I'm saying? Unbelievable. Just blows my mind. Speaking to insider from his office at the College of Weird Names, a Mossad veteran who helped fund the program said he wanted to make something clear. It is not an act of charity. Nobody wants somebody to do them a favor. The program is mutually beneficial to the IDF and people with autism and their families. Yeah, because they get employed, they get a good job and a specialty and intelligence, probably more than likely. And they get a little bit of respect. It's been super bad 80 years, and I found out at 12. Oh yeah, about like the Holocaust and all that stuff. Hello, Periwinkle. I love that name. Countries like Israel feel that they're under existential threat. But a premium on intelligence gathering, he said, so skilled recruits are highly coveted. You're damn right. Actually, Rommel said that if he had... No, it was Patton that fought Rommel. And, no, it was MacArthur, excuse me. It was MacArthur that said, if Rommel had the same intelligence that I do, then Rommel would have definitely won World War II in the African campaign. And intelligence is everything. And finding autistic people with our skills of observation, pattern seeking, and so forth, how could you have... I mean, I couldn't think of better candidates than autistic people freaking in their perseverating over their intelligence job and everything else. Yeah. They're probably so good they're annoying, and they probably talk about it like after in the barracks and all that stuff too. At least what they're supposed to. What they can talk about. The idea is put together real needs with real capabilities to create this win-win. Military divisions in the UK, US, Singapore, as well as civilian industries in Israel have shown interest in developing the model. It's not a lot of interest, evidently, because I don't see it happening yet. Isn't it bizarre, though, that Israel... I mean, Israel, this is what pisses me off about Israel. Their idea of removing terrorists is leveling cities. That's Russian thinking. We're going to help the civilians by leveling cities? You know? So far, more than 300 soldiers have been recruited from the program to the IDF and serve across 27 units. The first unit to recruit from the program was classified Unit 990, a prestigious visual intelligence outfit. So basically, it's their intelligence divisions. Oh, I gotta set that. I gotta remember. I've got to set up a. Sorry, this is my whiteboard. I put my notes on here, but I might have to set up an audible alarm that goes off like every 40 minutes, so that way I remember to mess with TikTok a little bit so it doesn't kick me off again. I had 2 other people on there when it kicked me off. These images can come from satellite images, drone footage, and reconnaissance flights over areas like the Gaza Strip, Syria. Oh my goodness! And they're even mentioning the Gaza Strip. An IDF. I wouldn't have mentioned it in this story. The Israeli name for the Gaza, the IDF spokesperson told Insider that the unit played a part in Operation Breaking Dawn. Oh my God. The Israeli name for the Gaza-Israel clashes in 2022. Okay, so maybe this was written before this whole Gaza thing. I don't know. I found this today on one of those websites, and it just amazed me. Because this is exactly what I've been talking about, finding those unique things. And now they don't consider these guys just to be soldiers or gals. They're absolute assets, I guarantee you, because they probably perform like nobody else has ever performed. And the military is also having to accommodate them, but they're doing it on purpose. I bet you they have their own special barracks and everything else in a lot of places. I think it's great. I would hope so anyway. The idea is put together real needs. Okay. An IDF spokesperson told Insider that the unit played a part in the Operation Breaking Dawn. The IDF spokesperson said Unit 990 helped protect civilians, in quotes, and provided operational support in the clashes. Amnesty International described the operation as unleashing fresh trauma and destruction on Palestinians. Okay, they are addressing it. That's a weird twist, though. Isn't it a weird twist going from talking about autism and how the special our special unique abilities are helping the Israeli Defense Force to Palestinians are they're committing genocide. Wow. They're like telling such a great story about how these autistic people are doing such a great job, and then it goes to the point where, yeah, they're doing a great job at identifying these people for the IDF so that they can kill people. That, okay, this is probably... I've seen some bad articles, but do you feel frustrated with that one? You should. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, trains for that one. That was horrible. Horrible. I do want to check one thing real quick. How is the volume? Is it still screwed up in here on this channel for the vol? Oh wait, there. Maybe that is it working now? Is the volume on this? Let me see. I wanted to go to this one and check this one. This is the one I was having a hard time with. That was giving me grief. Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's cool. All right, but yeah, oh my, that was a horrible story. That's probably the worst story that I have come across yet. Like, we're going to build up these autistic people and then, like, ew. Wow.
Well, the autism program largely grew...
I feel dirty. I feel dirty. Like, I've been violated.
And are the alarm bells of society. They're telling us, hey, this isn't working.
Okay, so this is a weird one. This is about the highly sensitive kids, or people. And I think I'm going to dive into this one for a little bit here. Highly sensitive people do not exist. It was developed by a lady who had an autistic kid that did not want to admit that her child was autistic. And it is, there is zero medical anything written about highly sensitive people. So as far as, it's not a medical thing. It is just a thing that people have.
For a lot of us, and I'm here on this earth to scream at you about it. Children learn through play. Play is their language, toys are their words. You know, as adults, we need to learn to speak that language. If it's uncomfortable for us, that's where we start. I teach the science of play to parents. I was trained, I was not naturally playful. I learned this. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Neuroscience, it's very apart from society itself, from parents. And we do need that information as well.
The old way focused on ineffective assumption of the brain. We were comparing people to dogs. Like parents, we have the privilege to always focus on our legacy and learn more and do better than our parents because our parents knew what they knew and they were doing the best they can. And we know more and can do the best.
Okay, I'm like needing Twilight Zone music. I'm going to have to get me some Twilight
Ladies
Zone
and
music.
gentlemen, we're not stuck. We can get out of fixed mode and go into a growth mindset, and we can just, you know, change. And that it's that's the hope for the future human being.
Okay.
Needs of sensitive kids much younger in, you know, in their childhood. My career.
By asking you if you can tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a coach for parents of highly sensitive children.
Sure. So I am a licensed clinical professional.
Highly sensitive kids do not exist. You're either autistic or you are not autistic.
Counselor here in the United States, outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And I'm also a registered play therapist supervisor. So I'm a trained mental health clinician, play therapist for young children.
I'm a play therapist. I'm a music therapist. Like, do, 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 do. I want to toot your horn.
However, I am only now.
Okay, I'm making fun of music therapy because music therapy, there's no clinical anything to prove that it works, and it may work great. Don't get me wrong, but if you're going to call something therapy, you kind of have to have something behind it to show that it is a therapy.
A parent coach consultant and have been for many years at this point. And I came to work with parents of sensitive kids throughout the beginning of my career. At first, by working with children with significant behavior issues, significant mental health issues, teenagers.
Okay, so we're talking about behavior issues.
Who are engaging in chronic suicide, self-harm behaviors. And I noticed that...
No, they weren't! Okay, I'm just going to guess that there's no such thing as a chronic suicidal behaviors. Like, maybe chronic suicidal ideation, but not chronic suicide.
These kids were similar to my own sister. So there's a big story behind how I became a
What the hell happened to Joe? Well, he had that chronic suicide going on. Hell, he committed suicide 13 times this damn week alone.
Specialist in this avenue. However, one thing that I noticed in my early career and my training was that there were some children who were born more sensitive than others. And parents were missing an effective way to parent them. And through the course of my training, being trained in addressing this chronic suicidality, self-harm for adolescents and older.
Chronic suicidality. Oh, okay. Maybe chronic suicide ideology, but not suicidality.
Mental health issues, teenagers. Who are engaging in chronic suicide, self-harm behaviors. And I noticed that these kids were similar to my own sister. So there's a big story behind how I became a specialist in this avenue. However, one thing that I noticed in my early career and my training was that there were some children who were born more sensitive than others. And parents were missing an effective way.
Yeah, some kids are born autistic and some people aren't.
To parent them. And through the course of my training, being trained in addressing this chronic suicidality, self-harm for adolescents and older.
It's not suicidality.
What I noticed,
chronic suicide ideation.
This is that there was an opportunity for parents to prevent this from happening by addressing the needs of sensitive kids much younger in their childhood. So it's definitely a personal mission of mine to serve this population at this stage of life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And, for the audience that is watching now, they might not know what it is a highly sensitive child. Mm-hmm. What are the traits? I know sometimes we confuse the trait of a highly sensitive child with a diagnosis or a disorder. And I guess it's not the same, right? Can you give us a light on that?
True. Yes, that's true. So being highly sensitive is a experience somebody has as their temperament, their disposition. How
they're autistic or they're not autistic.
They're born, right? How they see the world, how they experience the world, and also how they relate to the world, right? So there are 4 parts to this temperament trait. And I want to first cover the fact that there are, depending on the studies, usually all researchers come to the conclusion that there are 5 temperaments. And
what studies? Whoa, is it getting really low?
One of those 5 is something that relates to being thoughtful and sensitive and slow to warm up, right? However, the personality trait that was determined in the 1990s by Dr. Elaine Aron really takes a clearer look at this temperament from an understanding that children who experience the world differently with this temperament meet 4 criteria. So Dr. Elaine Aron named these 4 criteria to be...
and because one doctor comes up with this stuff and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. It's their opinion. If it's not peer reviewed and has not become a thing and is not in the DSM, it's not a thing yet.
Depth of processing, so they're taking in a lot of information from the world, and then
That's
is a
autism.
lot for them to process. And so your child might be considered wise beyond their years. You might think
That's
of them as
autism.
intellectually gifted because they notice
Autism.
those small details and they're impacted by
Autism.
that, which leads to the second piece of her acronym DOES. O stands for easily overstimulated. So
autism.
if you're taking in a lot of information from the world, that's going to impact you. And if you don't have emotion regulation,
why are these people so bent on denying that their kids are autistic? What's so bad about being autistic? So what? You've got a different brain type. Some people have blonde hair.
Skills, then that
Not
means
these
that
two.
it's going to be difficult for you to handle all of that information. You'll also be more sensitive to it. So that means that you're going to be more negatively impacted if you don't have those emotion regulation skills as a child. So these are children who have a hard time with large crowds or loud noises, or are more affected by sensations, many obligations at once. They may have a hard time being rushed, feel time pressure differently than other children. And the next piece is that they're emotionally responsive. That's the way that Dr. Aaron reports this in her research. And there's been many researchers that have taken her information
Emotionally
beyond,
responsive. What does that even mean?
Her coining the term. However, emotional responsivity could be characterized as emotionally reactive if a child doesn't have emotion regulation skills. So this is usually what parents...
I'm actually understanding her pretty good.
Lends parents to start to wonder what's going on with my kid. If
Are the captions helping?
If they have a highly sensitive child and the child is not resilient in life, so they're not able to tolerate regular everyday experiences or changes.
I love
and
captions.
This might have families and parents start to wonder, what's really going on with my child? As you were mentioning, is there a mental health diagnosis here? Does my child have issues with irritability and anxiety, right? So this emotional responsivity, if you're going to feel big feelings and you don't know how to deal with those feelings, then that means that those feelings are going to create big behaviors, hitting, kicking, screaming, yelling, running away, hiding, withdrawing, shutting down, refusing. And then we have children. So the fourth component is sensitive to subtlety, being able to notice small details and picking up in that. So one of the examples that I give often is that a child is going to notice Auntie raise her eyebrows and look at her in a certain way. And this child might be worried about what Auntie thinks when she notices that eyebrow raise, that most of us, 80% of us who are not highly sensitive, aren't going to pick up on that very small change in the environment. But
she's completely described autism.
Sensitive people make up 20% of the population.
I was waiting. She jumped off of the emotions thing, and I was waiting for her to get back on the thing. I know how that is, and that just happens. And you know.
That means 1 out of every 5 humans is highly
Wow.
sensitive.
Mhm.
So it's not a diagnosis, because with such a large population, what's important to understand is that highly sensitive people have a lot of purpose in the world. There's a reason why highly sensitive children exist and why highly sensitive adults exist. Emotionally regulated, highly sensitive children. And
okay, I just want to show you something real quick here. Okay, I'm going to put DSM 5-TR ACD 11 highly sensitive person. And there is nothing there. There is nothing there. Now, if it was a diagnosis in the ICD-10 or the ICD-11, which is the ICD-11 is the new diagnostic manual for Europe, and it just came out a couple of months ago, I think. And the DSM-5-TR came out last year. The thing is if there was anything about a highly sensitive person, if this existed, just by putting those in there, something would pop up, and you see nothing has popped up. Personality disorder is the closest thing. So what these people are talking about is not an actual thing.
And highly sensitive adults notice small details and are very good at also looking at the big picture. They are very empathetic, and they're able to act on that empathy. They're not overwhelmed.
You know, one thing is they say that we're detail oriented, but this being said, I can also see the big picture in ways that other people can't. And I think the only reason is because they never stop to look at it. They never stop to consider what the big picture is. Whereas my mind works, I build from the bottom up, looking at each detail. And as I get each detail, I eventually work to see that big picture.
Well,
and as far as being emotional and so forth, I've got alexithymia, so I've got extreme emotions, or none.
By it if they have emotion regulation skills. And so what that means is that they are very good at keeping the collective together.
And have you noticed how purposefully they have not mentioned autism? And this is what's really suspicious. She hasn't ever said anything about, well, these highly sensitive people look a lot like autism or look similar to autism, but it's differentiated by this. No, autism has not been mentioned at all. And we're 8 minutes
and following
into this?
through on expectations. They are more compelled to want to do things right the first time. Again, if you don't have emotion regulation skills, that plays into perfectionism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anxiety and really wanting every single detail to
And perfectionism and anxiety are all indicative of autism.
work out the exact.
Although it doesn't, it is not a diagnostic trait like OCD, but it's often comorbid, very often.
Right way that you need it to, which might, if you have an extroverted child, show up as my way or the highway.
Right.
So when I'm bringing attention to the understanding of the trait, DOES, those 4 components, to understand that might show up differently in every child. It doesn't mean you're going to have an introverted, woe is me wallflower on your hands. You could have an extroverted child who is just expecting everything to work out the way that they want, and they're gregarious, right? So when we think about it from a temperament standpoint, it is important to understand that the inner core of how your child experiences the world, it fits those 4 criteria. How they display that behavior depends on their skill sets.
Right. And there is also the uniqueness of each child, right? And the way they're going to express it and the way, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for parents that are now listening to you and saying, okay, I might have a child that is highly sensitive, right? Because they meet this criteria. There's so many things that you said that
they meet the criteria of autism. Therefore, they're not autistic. They're highly sensitive. There's something else.
Oh my God, I can see my child, like even my own child, the little one, it's highly sensitive for sure. And so can it be misdiagnosed with ADHD, autism? And how can a parent say, okay, should I take it to an expert? Is there a test?
It can't be misdiagnosed because it's not a diagnosis. Something has to be a diagnosis to be misdiagnosed as something else.
Well, how can I know if my child is highly sensitive?
Yes. So one of the key differences between autism and the highly sensitive trait is noticing that overstimulation is not contingent upon the environment, right? So a child.
Oh my God, that's the biggest thing I have ever heard. Not contingent on the environment. What about medicines? What about being tired? What about being sick? What about having emotional issues going on?
Child who fits the criteria for autism.
That's just nuts.
move out of reactivity.
Okay,
Usually
Danielle,
where we
I've
see
had those
parents get
days. You know what? When you get tired and stuff, that's what happens, Danielle. It's just one of those things.
stuck in this meltdown cycle is if they're doing what I call crisis of the week coaching, keeping their child focused on the behavior that they're demonstrating today.
Go ahead and get a hold of
teaching
me
them
tomorrow, though.
a skill to prevent that behavior into tomorrow. And that feels preventative because you're trying to make tomorrow not yesterday. However, when we zoom out, we realize we're following the child's behavior to tell us what we need to fix, right? So it's actually still reactive. So we teach a process where parents are more effectively principled in managing their child's behavior. We teach them how to
Okay, first of all, you shouldn't manage their behavior. I don't give a crap what the situation is or how difficult or challenging it is. If possible, you want to get the child to learn to manage their behaviors, if that's what you want to call it, themselves. But more so, you want to teach the kids to help manage their autism themselves, because you're not always going to be around to do it for them. And the biggest key to that is accepting that it is autism instead of something else, and not treating it properly because of it.
triage big intense behaviors and notice what behaviors are actually symptoms of the
So
cycle.
she's saying the only difference between highly sensitive people, so far anyway, is that the environment doesn't have anything to do with highly sensitive people. Wow. Or with
operating
autism
together. And those behaviors don't need to be targeted, which is very relieving to parents.
Okay, the behaviors, you're still framing it wrong as behaviors. You don't know what you're talking about there either.
I teach the science of play to parents. They can be trained just like I was trained. I was not naturally playful as a young adult and you know, in my early life, and I learned this. So if I can do it, you can do it too.
Do you hear what she's saying? I wasn't naturally playful, and nothing's ever dawned on her.
You know, as the oldest and a high performer, I had to retrain my brain to focus on.
I was a high performer. I didn't play. Oh my goodness!
Given my upbringing,
I think she's denying a lot of things.
You know, regular traditional 80s parenting, punishment was the way.
I'm there. Yeah.
And punishment, removal of privileges, doing exactly what I say, no matter what, was the way that I was raised, as most parents are raising their children or trying not to raise their children in that dynamic these days, and because of you know, their history. And what that does is it teaches children to keep it together, even if they're boiling inside. And highly sensitive children are the alarm bell.
Keep it together even though they're boiling inside. What did she just say? 80s parenting turned my big brother, who's 40, into a selfish, abusive, substance abusing monster. Oh my God. Yeah, I was taught to, you know, the whole do not speak unless you're spoken to kind of thing. And children are not to be seen or heard when there's adults around.
You know, as the oldest and a high performer, I had to retrain my brain to focus on play, because given my upbringing, you know, regular traditional 80s parenting, punishment was the way.
I'm there. Yeah.
And punishment, removal of privileges, doing exactly what I say, no matter what, was the way that I was raised, as most parents are raising their children or trying not to raise their children in that dynamic these days. And because of you know, their history. And what that does is it teaches children to keep it together, even if they're boiling inside. And highly sensitive children are the alarm bells of society. They're telling us, hey, this isn't working for a lot of us, and I'm here on this earth to scream at you about it. And they might scream verbally or scream internally, right? And take it out on themselves. But what's going on in that dynamic is we're teaching external motivation. I am the external source of your control, as I am your control.
Okay. So I'm teaching you to mask your meltdowns rather than finding an appropriate way to stem and get those things out so that you don't have a breakdown. So in other words, she wants them to mask and bottle it up. And how did she put it? Keep things under control.
As a parent, this is very draining as a parent, because you end up having to use force intense.
That's because your approach is completely wrong.
Intense mentality or over control, and we need children to be internally motivated to change and internally motivated to do well. So
why
we
do
can't
they
be
have
using
to change from what you don't like seeing?
sticker charts or reward plans or removal of privileges that are
now she's talking about privileges and all.
unnatural, to basically keep a leash on your kid and drag them along through life. So we teach parents how to understand where their child's internal motivation is coming from, what helps them feel better about themselves.
So has your brother like worked? I mean, does he realize all that? Has he worked through it? I thank you for the diamonds and a bracelet. Oh,
raise their confidence, and they naturally creatively solve their problems as a result. Now, obviously, for our clientele, the children are demonstrating really big, intense behaviors. So we also teach parents how to strategically manage those behaviors and decrease them, for sure.
See, now we're managing. She was so close. She was talking about the kids taking responsibility. And the thing is I believe autistics need to take responsibility for themselves more so than allistics. Because allistics can get away with not really paying attention to themselves, going out, getting drunk, whatever, and they can get away with that stuff. We can't. We have to constantly be on top of our emotions, on top of our sensitivities. We can't just like wing it, you know? Yeah.
And for how long? I mean, this is a work's life, right? Like this is for life, that we have to like keep looking at ourselves and, you know, being capable to manage first what's going on for us, and then to be, you know, make a safe space for our kids. But for how long? Like, I think you have some courses, or one course at least that I know about, that is 8 weeks. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. So with go ahead. So with 8 weeks, what a parent can learn, what will learn, and how can come out of.
So basically, this is a parent teaching class to ignore autistic traits and to basically apply behavioral analysis and teach the kids to mask, because we're denying that they could be autistic in the first place. That's pretty much what I'm getting from
8 weeks.
Yes.
In fact, they have never said that if you, okay, let's say this was valid. They have not once said, if you consider your child to be highly sensitive, you should consider the fact that your child may be autistic and get them evaluated for being autistic. Right? It is
Our work is very intensive, and we
and why if it's so similar to autism, and the only difference is autism doesn't have meltdowns because of sensitivities, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard.
NFI only, it's application only for our clients who want to work with us.
I mean, that's literally one of the diagnostic one of the 3 diagnostic pillars of autism.
That's because we have very good results, because we make sure that everybody who comes to work with us is going to get the result that we provide.
Right.
We have a 98% success rate, with the understanding that everybody who does the work gets the result.
Of course, brainwashing works.
Eliminating the daily meltdown cycle in their home, and they know why and how they did that, so that they can.
Yes. And it's just like when we torture prisoners to extract information. We know exactly why it works. We know how it works. We know how to repeat it, and we know how to extract that information.
Repeat it. So our process in 8 weeks is very intensive, where we're working directly with the parents, and we're teaching.
Okay, so if it's intensive on the parents, guess what the parents are going to go home and do? They're going to go home and practice.
Teaching them how to be the therapeutic change agent for the children, because that's how highly sensitive.
And that's the purpose.
Kids learn. They learn by first managing the external environment so that they feel ready for change.
Managing the external environment. Okay, that's okay. I don't know that that's first. I think you should manage your sensitivities first, your emotions, and then your environment, in that order. Because you have to go, if possible, If you're at home, you can control your environment, but a lot of times out in town, you can't control your environment. That's why it's not number one priority. Number one is sensitivities, number two, emotions, and number three, environment, because you can't control your environment. If you could control your environment, I would put that number one, but that's just not the case. That's not how the world works.
And then are more capable of holding themselves accountable, and then they take off. Whereas a non-highly sensitive child,
she's talking out both sides of her mouth. She's talking about the kids taking responsibility for themselves, but then at the same time, she's literally saying that the parents should manage them. Which is it?
you can work directly with that non-highly sensitive child, teach them skills, and they can be resilient in any environment. Highly sensitive children need to feel secure in their parent-child relationship and in their home, and then they can be resilient in any environment. So we have to look at the temperament to understand how and who needs to be the change agent for the kiddos. So yes, we work directly with parents for 8 straight
threw down kiddos. Blech.
weeks in an intensive manner, and then we have continuity for there in terms of our process, because there are lifestyle changes that we have our clients make, and we want our clients to be able to maintain that, and we support them in that.
And is it a one-on-one or is it in groups?
Group, because oh my goodness, this problem is so isolating. 1 out of every 5, right? That means you might have multiple children and only one child who's highly sensitive, or you might have one child in your home and nobody in your environment is noticing that their kid's highly sensitive, or their perspective is different on how children learn and what priorities are in the home for emotion management and emotion intelligence.
You're right, Tyler. This is just damaging. This is just if this was a real thing, it would still be wrong the way they're talking about it.
So the group community of parents who are solving problems, who are high performers and who are really efficacious in doing that,
high performers,
really motivates people to want to see that same result in their own homes. And that allows our process to work much more effectively.
So this is just like a cult, Tyler. This is a cult. Now she's talking about the other members of the cult. Let's just frame it in a cult. The other members are reinforcing the leader's directives. Okay? They're reinforcing the leader's directives, which is making it easier for the leader to not have to give those directives because it's being enforced by the other parents. This is exactly how it works in a cult, in a church, or your economic, like business cults, like your pyramid scheme things. That's exactly how they work. The leadership trains the underlings so that they train and automatically reinforce the fact that the leader is the all-knowing guru. And that's what she's bragging about here, inadvertently.
Effectively. Now, obviously, we do one-on-one support in multiple avenues, including in the group calls. However, our work is a hybrid model because it is so rewarding for families to no longer feel alone in this dynamic.
And see, okay, and then once again, no longer feel alone. What happens in church? Why do people go to church? For that feeling of belonging and community. So what they're doing is they're cultivating this identity. And remember, the first thing that she talked about, the first thing that this they talked about was the parenting and so forth. Yeah, I know. No.
Stop believing that this can't happen for them.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. Getting the power of the community, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. You don't do it yet in Spanish, though.
We have a Spanish-speaking performance coach that would work with our team. However, our course material is in English at this time.
Okay.
And I speak I speak a tiny bit of Spanish. It's not appropriate for me to coach in Spanish. So
there's always time.
Obviously, we're doing this interview and you're in Spain, and so for families who have who can be mediumly fluent in English, and perhaps.
And the thing is like you said, nightmare trauma. The thing is the basis of where these parents are coming from. They're setting themselves up to abuse their children. This entire program is abusive by its design. It's literally designed, not the purpose is not to be abusive, but its design is abusive. The only thing that can come out of this is abuse. It's the only thing that can possibly come out of it.
Even one parent who is fluent in English and one parent is not, we can support through written and hybrid model in that respect. However, we would need at least one person to be able to understand English
Right.
to work with us.
Fantastic. I'm sure they're taking note.
It's a small team, so yeah.
Fantastic.
Right.
Okay, and there are some concrete maybe strategies or something that you can talk about with parents, that any takeaway that, you know, a parent that is listening to us now is maybe first knowing about a highly sensitive child, or maybe they knew about it before, but they're like, I have nothing, I have no tools, I don't know how to approach it. Can you tell us something like 2-3 things that they can straight away use for their child?
Okay, here it comes.
The first piece is noticing that you can be the therapeutic change agent for your child. Being able to raise your confidence in yourself and feel empowered is critically important in solving this problem for your family. If you're stuck,
It's about the parents, huh?
in a meltdown cycle where it's happening on a daily or multiple times a day basis, or even multiple times a week, it is time to engage with a professional.
You know, this is really, I mean, if you look at the autism mom, this is truly what's being propagated in the autism mom. It really is. This is a perfect example of an autism mom basically really, really trying, but not having any idea and being fundamentally misdirected from the very, very start. Unfortunately.
So what I want to do is speak to parents of all highly sensitive kids.
Basically, what they're teaching to do the very opposite of what you should be doing. They do have some points here. Yeah.
Capacity to be confident in raising your child is critical. Your child will feed off of that energy if you are uncertain, or if you're letting them lead the show in an emotional manner. So I'm sure all of the mindfulness skills that you teach in your institute will be applicable here for parents to become emotionally aware and choose not to add to the emotional intensity in the moment and work hard at that, right? So that's definitely number one. Number two would be that play is the language of children. It is much more efficient to be playful with your child to help them follow through. And in our process, we teach play as science rather than play as distraction. So I'm not just talking about, trying to, be a clown for your kiddo. I'm talking about really being able to
talk
relate.
about a play. Play is such a huge thing, right? Stand a little bit onto play.
So children learn through play. Play is their language, toys are their words. So what that means is that, as adults, we need to learn to speak that language. And if it's uncomfortable for us, that's where we start. Getting silly, getting playful, being able to tolerate that discomfort and choosing not to be in charge of your child's play, and being able to relate to your child by noticing that you don't need to be a performer in your child's play. I mean, that's just so crucial for kiddos today, and parents and children now.
At least she's not talking about appropriate play, what's appropriate and what's inappropriate.
This time we're very busy.
Usually they
right?
go
so it can
down that
feel
road
like
about
when you
this
play with
time.
your kid, you have to eliminate boredom for your child. Your child wants you to be there with them while they're playing, and so it actually turns the tables on how much pressure it is for a parent.
That is called a body double. And it's very common with ADHD too. It's called a body double.
To be with a child who's playing. So that would be obviously impacting the environment more subtly in a positive manner. Definitely necessary to be able to prioritize that with children.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And it's so much easier. I find it with my own kids. I don't know. You have 2 kids?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, me too. So I find it so much easier when even when you get tired, it's like, for me, the evenings are like really the worst time, right? Like you've been working all day. It's like the patience goes really low and they're like, soup again. No, whatever. And
and the thing is there's so many people that have ADHD or whatever and have no clue. And a lot of time they do learn to deal with it to an extent on their own. But if they actually knew what was going on and understood, it could be so much easier.
And when I can really shift your mode of I'm so tired already, and you can go into play mode and make fun of it, and they follow it so much easier, right? Like they get into, like you were saying, into another language that they understand better, and they like that, and it's like a question of connection with you. It's not like being away and getting shocked. It's completely the opposite. It's like connection first. So I love
They have
the
not
theme
said
of
anything.
play. Can give we can speak about it for another whole session.
Yes. I mean, given my specialty, right? There's a post-grad certification on it, so there's plenty to talk about. But yes, in regular everyday parenting, and again, it just goes back to this is trainable, right? It might not feel natural. I know when I was babysitting at age 12, I was sitting on the couch and being like, "You guys go do that," because I was so parentified and being in charge and intellectualized, and reading was my play at that point because I just needed to focus on my logical brain, had no emotional awareness at that young age. So I have very strong memories as a child in not playing, right? To the point where I was restricting my own play, saving fun crayons and colored pencils for a special occasion. Even.
Oh my God!
So restricting my own play was a self-induced reaction to the parenting dynamic. Then I love my parents, and it's just the way we were raised in the 80s. And
oh my God, she was collecting her crayons and stuff.
Being in charge and intellectualized, and reading was my play at that point because I
reading was her play.
Focus on my logical brain, had no emotional awareness.
Logical brain, no emotional awareness.
So I have very strong memories as a child in not playing, right? To the point where I was restricting my own play, saving fun crayons and colored pencils for a special occasion even. So restricting my...
And that's that ableism. That is a lot of internalized ableism. And of course, neither one of us can say she's anything, but... she's talking about all these traits that she has that sound like the highly sensitive person she's talking about, yet it's not dawning on her.
My own play was a self-induced reaction to the parenting dynamic. Then I love my parents, and it's just the way we were raised in the 80s. And it was mismatched to my personality. Now I'm not highly sensitive.
No, you reading books and not wanting to play with your toys and keeping your crayons all together for a rainy day and not using them, that is not because of your parents. That's probably a little bit of maybe OCD and a little bit of the autism that you don't have. Evidently.
But I am definitely more,
yeah, we're just going to blame it on the 80s. It's the 80s fault. That's going to be my throwdown now. It's the 80s fault.
Type A and driven. So I just ran with my intellect. And so with that history, and then getting my first job out of grad school, working with very young children, it's when back in 2009 when the bubble burst, I had to take the first job that didn't require...
It was that long hair, heavy metal music. That's what it was, and them devil worshippers.
Yeah, I grew up during Satanic Panic, and that stuff. Oh my goodness, Satanic Panic. I was in a fundamentalist church, so Satanic Panic for me. Whoo, boy, that was at the front of everybody's mind. Everything was Satan and demons and.
For me to travel all over Timbuktu as a driving therapist, and it was with young kids.
I was actually possessed in the 80s. That's why. That's why it was the 80s. That's when I got possessed.
So I had to learn really quickly in what I believe is a fate focused opportunity. I don't believe in coincidences. However, it was a big skill set, and like I said, it wasn't natural to me at all for many, many years. My sister, who's highly sensitive, she loves kids, and I love kids now too, right? But
whoa, that was weird. I love kids now too. So she didn't like kids for a period of time, and I guess she's trying to say now that I have kids, I like kids.
It was just not a thing that it was easy for me
That's
to pick
weird.
up. Now, as a parent, it's automatic. It's automatic now. So we're playful, we're silly, we're dancing. We have dance parties on a daily basis. Like, it's just a fun dynamic
that's
to engage in. And at this stage, it's rote memory. So any skill set we can learn. The brain is very plastic in that.
When I found out that my wife was pregnant, we were on our way to Walmart, which was the next town over, and I got home from work, and my wife's like, "We got to talk." And it gets me being autistic, like, "What, are you pregnant?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, so we're still going to Walmart, right?" That was my reaction. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't upset. It was just like, it was like matter of fact. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's very hopeful too. Right,
Yes,
like
exactly.
I'm not stuck. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not stuck. We can get out of fixed mode and go into a growth mindset, and we can just change, and that it's that's the hope for the future human being,
it's
right?
time for change.
We can
Exactly.
change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to run down the field in football and hit the goal. I won't be good at that. But I can absolutely
Me neither.
follow kids now.
Yeah,
I'm not very fast.
I'll be darned.
So we all have our shortcomings for sure, but I also didn't train that hard when I was playing as a kid. So it wasn't my preference.
Totally.
And as parents, it's our preference. It's our preference to feel connected, right? Which means we use that internal drive to really build the new skills, and it's absolutely possible for everybody.
Yeah.
I think it is important for us to cover that if parents are engaging in trying to be mindful and playful and teach emotional intelligence, and yet are still feeling stuck, especially if they're using gentle parenting, just really exuding that hope that the typical traditional gentle parenting ways are still keeping parents stuck in this dynamic of the meltdown.
So gentle parenting is the same thing as non-demand parenting, I think, or pretty similar. I'm going to have to look those up.
Cycle, and that's through no fault of your own. It's just that a lot of that the structure needs to move into more strategic support. So this is what my team does. When we notice that you can be building a healthy attachment with your child, you can be kind and caring and demonstrate emotional intelligence by regulating and validating emotions alongside your kid. You might need more specific tools to help your child stop the meltdown cycle
and so much
change
of
the
nothing.
dynamic in your
This entire thing is just like
your whole household. However, you don't have to move into punishment or the way that you were raised if that was true with more strict.
This is like Tales from the Dark Side
parenting in that respect, and overt control of the child's behavior. And so if your gut tells you that this is the right way, it is.
No, it's not.
You might need to get more help for strategy for sure. However,
then you better refer to your gut rather than your intellectual capacities, because your intellectual capacities.
You don't have to ride the wave of the emotional intensity and have those meltdowns last for hours, only to have conversations about what the child.
She just said meltdowns. She just used the term meltdowns. That's very interesting, because usually when I've heard the term meltdowns, you hear in the colloquial sense that so-and-so had a meltdown at the store. But medically, whenever you're talking about any kind of on the spectrum and you say meltdown, you're specifically talking about someone who is on the spectrum. Am I not right? And she has been skirt-tailing this the whole time.
Could be doing differently next time. That's what gentle parenting will teach parents, and it's what a lot of parent coaches who are talking about the helping parents of sensitive kids eliminate those meltdowns.
Okay, that's one subject that I got to talk about, this gentle parenting thing and this non-demand parenting thing, because people get that so screwed up. I I am, and you've heard me, I am a huge proponent of kids taking responsibility. However, there's a time to put your damn foot down and be a parent. I told my kids straight up, I will be your friend all day long, but if you make me be a parent, I will be a parent, and you will not like it. I won't either. In fact, I will be more of a parent because you pissed me off because you made me be a parent.
However, it's a very long road with that mentality.
And the thing is I literally would parent when it came down to be a jerk or whatever else, if you want to call it that, to piss off the kids and be a parent. I would do it with no hesitating. But for the most part, I like to talk things out with my kids and just say, hey, this didn't work or whatever. Let's, figure this out, because that's where the real learning comes from, and that's where the real building comes from. Me being pissed off and spanking them or taking some kind of corporate punishment, all that does is give them additional pain and possible emotional abuse in addition to all of whatever happened wrong.
And it's exhausting, and it just lends people to think, well, maybe my method isn't going to work for us. And I really want to exude that hope. Focusing on emotional intelligence in the home is absolutely something that you can do, and you can teach your child through that positive relationship.
Yeah, and it's trainable. Yeah. And actually, where you were saying
I don't know. I would not be surprised if this redheaded lady is on the spectrum at all. I'm not going to say she is, but I'm not going to do that. But all of the traits that she discussed about her, every single one of them fits that highly sensitive person that she's talking about. We'll just say that.
we were parented like more harsh and, controlled. And it doesn't feel good to the parent either.
No.
It does not feel good to the parent. It might be coming out through you because that's what you experienced when you were...
You see, okay, a lot like Temple, Brendan, and a lot of people don't like Temple because of this. I think children... And I don't like this. I don't even like this. I think children should experience life. And as an autistic child, a lot of times my parents pushed me to do things like kickball or whatever with the other kids, and I did not like it. Although in a lot of situations, even though it was emotionally tolling on me, it was important for me to know that I could do it. And they had to force me to do it so that I knew I could. And the thing is I don't think that's appropriate all the time. Although I think sometimes it is appropriate that you do have to push your kids to do things that they don't know that they can do. I'm not saying that you should force them to do things that you want them to do or just because you think they should be doing it, but it is important for them to experience life in ways that are unpleasant. Because they were playing in winter raining. I don't... Oh my God! Was it hurting them?
A child, and it's like, but it's what you learn, right?
Oh no, that's so horrible. Oh my goodness gracious, Tyler. Oh.
It might be to punish, in any sense, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. There is a disconnect, and I think that it's something that down the road is gonna, in the teens years maybe, it's gonna provoke a completely disconnection from you, because you cannot control a teenage, teenager. So yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
So going back to my specialty and why I do what I do, right? Engaging with highly sensitive teenagers who were engaging in self-harmful behavior, hurting themselves, and then also engaging in chronic suicidality in and out of the hospital, right? I have clinical experience working with kids and keeping them out of the hospital through an evidence-based treatment.
Okay, you hear that? Evidence-based? Evidence-based means brainwashing works.
And it's also true that I worked in a residential treatment center. So this is a locked door facility, 6 months or more, where the teenager's behavior was so out of control and unsafe that they could not be cared for in their own home. And some of these teenagers had trauma histories, right? But
all of them had trauma histories. All of them.
Some of them just had mismatched parenting.
No. Not one of them in an institution just had mismatched parenting.
And that narrow focus of noticing that this is where it can go.
So they had bad parents, so that made them autistic?
Oh.
Are you a refrigerator mother? Is that what you are? Is that what you're talking about? Refrigerator mothers?
As obviously that's a worst case scenario. As parents, we have the privilege to always focus on our legacy.
Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with the refrigerator mothers. That came out, I believe it was Skinner that came out with the refrigerator mother. And so what he observed was these mothers had these kids that were having meltdowns, and they didn't rush up to them and grab them and go, no, they did not get. And so what Skinner said was that these were very cold-hearted people that didn't want to touch their kids, that didn't want to comfort their kids and all this. What he did not realize is that he said they were cold-hearted like refrigerators, therefore they were refrigerator mothers. The problem with this is that what they did is they were the ones who were sensitive. They recognized that their children didn't like to be touched, didn't want to be hugged or whatever else, and what have you. And they were paying attention to their kids and their kids' sensitivities. It was the mothers that weren't that were getting in their kids' faces and making the meltdowns worse. But he wasn't wise enough to figure that out. That had to be observed later on.
And address and learn more and do better than our parents, because our parents knew what they knew and they were doing the best they can.
Absolutely.
And we know more and can do the best that we can, right?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. We're roboting.
And the science and my clinical experience over almost 15 years now, just
and now she's talking about all of her clinical experience. She's qualifying herself as an expert.
Demonstrates that there is a subset, a pocket of these kids who end up out of the home because of their unsafe behavior as a result of a simple mismatch in parenting, years and years and years of chronic invalidation. And that's been researched since the 1960s, actually. That research started with Marshall Linehan. The personality trait.
Because something has been researched does not mean whatever your conclusions are factual. The difference between research and conclusions from research are completely different. I can research something all my life and never have it right.
Trait actually was identified first in clinical writings in the 1920s by Carl Jung. He was focusing on this temperament trait at that point, and he's one of the grandfathers of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been around. This isn't
new. We just
yes, behavioral science, brainwashing has been around for a very long time. It sure has.
We just didn't have it in our radar the way that we do now. And absolutely. And neuroscience is backing up all of this as well, right?
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Yeah,
it does back up brainwashing.
Research-backed approaches for our work, and in our dynamic, it's coaching, not therapy. So working directly with the parents and teaching you what to do in your own home. Because
good. At least they're not trying to do therapy, because that would be even worse.
I'm not raising your kid, you are, right? So you need to feel empowered to do that.
Yeah,
the Stanford guy lectures on YouTube. Yes,
you need the knowledge as well, like how the brain.
I come from the distinguished Stanford College of YouTube.
The prestigious University of WWW
works, right? And what happens when you are
this is literally pseudoscience. She has sat here and said this is covered by studies. This is covered. She mentioned Jung, but she has not mentioned one thing. And when I looked it up earlier, we saw this, that none of this is actually real. It's not clinical. There's nothing. There's no. It's like saying that I'm going to make a airplane out of lead and it's backed by science. We know gravity works. Okay? And so I'm going to make, because we know gravity works and because we know that wing shapes work, I'm going to make a lead airplane, and because it's backed by science that those wing shapes work. We know this. So we'll just make it out of lead.
Reactive. And what
And
happens
asbestos, just for good measure.
when your child is reactive, what's happening in your brain is not, the child can decide for himself, I'm gonna, be your torment today because I want to, right? Because I want to like have something.
Exactly.
It doesn't work like that, right? And I think sometimes neuroscience, it's very apart from society itself, from parents. And we do need that information as well. We need to know what's going on, what's our nervous system, and how it works, because that supports when a bad moment of reactivity comes, that's supporting, oh no, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Can you talk a little bit about this? Because I think it's very.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna go through this, but oh my goodness, this is killing me.
Okay, so I've got the brain here.
Fantastic. We love brains.
This part of the brain.
Yeah.
This part of the brain is the frontal lobe. It's right here in the forehead. Okay. And this is the part of the brain that's developed by the time the child hits 25. Notice how I said child and 25, right? How many of us listening in know people who are 25 and still behaving like children, right?
Yeah.
So,
and more.
Myself included. When I was 25, I was not mature, right? So this part of the brain is what controls.
Actually, to tell you the truth, at 25, I was about as mature as I am now.
The forward thinking before acting. And so if this part of the brain is not fully developed until age 25, what that means is that when we tell a child that they should know better and that they're supposed to control their behavior, and we're supposed to talk to them about what they should be doing better next time after their meltdown, we are asking children to have a part of
what they can do better after a meltdown. Well, okay, what she's talking about is behaviors and stuff, but she isn't going to mention the fact that they should take care of their sensitivities, that they should maybe make sure that they've taken care of their emotions. Maybe they have medicine they're supposed to take or whatever else. That
part of their brain that
you're right.
Isn't
this is like
actually developed yet. Now, the actual brain is there, but the wires inside the brain are not thorough, they're not thick, they're not connected, and they're firing very ineffectively, right? And so it's inconsistent at best, non-existent at worst. And so what happens is we have to look at how emotions control the brain's capacity to grow, right? Because if we're parenting in a way where we're telling our children to do better and to listen to me and to know what I'm going to do to you, take away a privilege or time out or whatever, and remember that when you're at the heat of a moment, right? You're about to explode or hit or cry or whatever, then we're asking them to have a thoroughly developed frontal lobe, and we're also making them feel bad.
And the thing is even after 25, if they are autistic, they may not ever be able to emotionally develop. My emotions probably stopped developing at probably 9 years old. I am emotionally a 9-year-old. My emotions never developed, in my opinion, beyond 9 years old. My capacity to control my emotions has never developed beyond 9 years old. Now, logically, intellectually, I've matured as an adult. Emotionally, I never have, I don't think. I just have learned how to deal with things with my logical part of my brain. So this idea that we're going to be mature at 25 or whatever else as autistic people, or quote in her case highly sensitive people, I think that's a completely unrealistic expectation, and she should know better.
An emotional disconnect in the relationship. You don't understand me. How do you expect me to know how to do this when I can't? I don't feel capable, right? So it actually decreases self-esteem.
And that's something, Tyler, I would really love to ask a lot of autistic people. At what age or do they ever feel that their emotional maturity, their emotional growing, just stopped at any point in time of their life? I would like it to ask it kind of in that way, so that I'm not leading them into, saying that they stopped, at any particular time, or that they did stop at any point in time. But I think it'd be very, very curious to know about that, because I literally don't think my emotions developed at all beyond 9 years old, maybe 12, somewhere in there, really young. Now, one thing that is, my emotions are less intense after 25. The intensity is less, but I don't think I have changed any emotionally.
And when we have shame, and a child who's highly sensitive is more prone to experiencing shame because they want the collective community to feel
really,
better,
Tyler,
and to work
Tyler,
well.
I've never heard anybody really talk about that emotional development. That's something I should really look into.
As I mentioned before, it's part of the trait. They're more empathetic. And if they can act on that empathy, we see that in compassion, right? We see that in their emotional intelligence. However, if they're stuck and frozen, they're not acting on empathy when they're overwhelmed. So we see counterproductive behavior. You can't use that as evidence to say your kid isn't empathetic. What happens is that shame takes over, and shame keeps you stuck, and shame tells you, who do you think you are? And you don't deserve this. And so when we have a child who is thinking small in their mind, and they are thinking that they're a bad kid, and judging themselves, they start to say things like, I hate myself, or I hate you, and all that. And they feel incapable. And as a result, we're using parenting strategies that are keeping our child from feeling capable while telling them that they're capable. This is a very maddening experience when we look at it like that.
It is. It is.
It's like every once in a while, she hits the nail on the head, but then she applies it completely wrong. It's so bizarre to this lady. Like I said, I mean, she is so right on, and then all of a sudden she'll take this bizarre turn and turn it upside down.
But it's also the internal experience for the child is, there must be something wrong with me. And when you perpetuate that over time, this is what happens when we get to those extreme behaviors in adolescence. Or even 9, 10, 11, we see it.
Yeah, you can think, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And you can be all your life because you're
yeah, that kind of thing is perpetuated my entire life.
Circuits, they're also developing while you're getting that information. Right. So it's not just like one or not. It's developing while you're parenting. That's why also it's so important.
Her eyeballs are different sizes. Look at her pupils. They're different sizes.
Important.
Yeah,
Why
we
would
have
I
to be
observe
using
that?
neuroscience to apply what we're teaching our children, and how we teach our children, and how they.
Her left eye is way bigger than her.
learn.
Or at least the iris is way bigger than the right.
Because the old way only was focused on a ineffective assumption of the brain. We were comparing people to dogs. I give you a treat, you do what I say, right? Very simplistic. And
it's not changed one bit from what you're talking about.
That 1960s Pavlovian approach is debunked in terms of how children learn and how children motivate. However, because we have
But that's what you've been talking about the entire time.
So much history, 20 some odd years for ourselves of being, interacting with parents who did that, we have a lot of opinions as to how it created opportunity for us. And I invite you to wonder, did you thrive or survive in spite of that way of parenting, right? Rather than because of that way of parenting. So
I never did parent that way. I knew better instinctively to be an overbearing, draconian kind of person.
Obviously getting curious about that and practicing forgiveness and gratitude for your opportunities is super critical, and mindfulness for that. And right now you get to decide to follow what we know about the brain and what keeps the brain small, less creative, less effective, less collaborative. And what we know is that fear will continue to make us ineffective in our lives. And highly sensitive children are more susceptible to that. They're less resilient if they're raised in that manner. So
it's not the raising. Seems to be stuck on this this thought that by bad parenting you're going to make bad kids. Is what she's.
What that means is that
and then her parenting style that she wants to do to improve the situation is worse.
Shouldn't be using punishment for any child, right?
No.
I'm not talking about natural consequences. Natural consequences is, you throw the TV's broken. Natural,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But, if you're taking away TV because the kid is yelling at you about snacks, like...
I actually agree with this part.
Beep, bop, boop, robot does not compute. Like, I don't get that, right? The child is obviously confused, and so are you. You're just looking for leverage. And so I invite you to notice that there's a different way to have leverage. Your leverage is through your connection. Your child naturally wants to be connected to you. And in fact, it's self-destructive to behave in a way that is not connected to you.
I do not understand this lady at all.
Since no child was put on this earth to be miserable, your child is miserable if they're acting in counterproductive ways towards their relationship. So with that assumption and that knowledge, we can then decide to change the way that we parent. It's also...
I don't understand her way of thinking because she says the exact opposite things like in the same paragraph. It is so bizarre. I don't know what she thinks.
Important. I want to just put a little piece here on this, Miriam, related to how the brain works and how some less punitive manners of parenting still miss the mark. Timeouts. I'm going to talk about that, okay? Because there's so much out in the world, very popular, written by psychologists, still using timeouts. And go over here and think about what you did for young children is actually counterproductive for the brain. Children don't actually have inner conversations with themselves until starting around age 6.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
And yet we use timeouts for 2-year-olds. I mean, I never did, but we're taught to. We're told
it's
to,
like,
right?
Think, I've never heard, a child that it's like, okay, time out. And so they go to their room and they're like Googling, okay, what is an effective way for me to cope with what I'm feeling right now?
In their mind, what are they doing? They're playing, they're distracting themselves, they're crying, they're losing it, they're getting rageful because they're disconnected from you, all of that. And so did you what is it that you're supposed to do? What were you thinking about, right? Your child is logical and they're smart, but they're not telling them, they're not having inner conversation.
I used to give my son time out when he was about 14. He went through a phase, but the thing is I would set him out on the front porch. And it didn't matter if it was 20 degrees out. He was just going to sit there on the porch. But this was the deal. When he decided that when he was done being outside, he could come in at any time he wanted to. And I would sit there right by the door. I'd shut the door, but I would be standing right there, basically watching him out the peephole and everything else the entire time, which he didn't know. But I let him decide when he was done. And that was always effective for me. I didn't have to he was in total control.
It's not how their brain works at that age. And so if we could get those books discontinued because they were debunked, I would love to do that. I don't know how to make that happen around the world. But I know that there's popular books from the 90s that are still in circulation and they're still making money off of it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so hard. I speak to parents every day and parents who want to work with us.
And she stutters
and
too.
They say,
and she stutters too.
I've tried, counting to 3 and timeouts and all of that because of these popular methods. Popular doesn't mean effective. It just means that a lot of people have heard of it.
Ineffective. Actually, they don't work. And
shaming and keeps the child feeling super confused, and which disrupts the relationship for sure.
And actually also they learn by absorption, right? I mean, the way that you can cope with your own emotions and with
this is
and provide a space where they can feel the emotion because the emotion is there, and
not
providing a safe space with.
Not necessarily.
Where they can feel it, then their identity is not their behavior.
That's right.
Which is so, and now it's like behavior and identity plan. This is one thing, and that's what we're looking at.
Identity. I don't know how the hell you would conflate identity with the behavior. I don't.
We don't see the child in their goodness, in their love, in their capability. You've lost that. You've lost that.
Why?
When
starts
you're
to
treating
sour your perception of your kid.
Exactly. And so
I don't even know what they're talking about now.
That's right, because of the co-regulation, right? They don't have it. Yeah, it's missing. Fantastic, Megan.
So beautiful.
Amazing. Such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah. Oh, it's been wonderful, and I love talking about this.
All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to call it good. I'm going to get on Discord. If you want to talk later on, then maybe we can do a regular call. But I'm going to go get something to eat, talk to the wife, chill, and maybe go on Discord. If not, I could catch you on Discord tomorrow. Either way, I'll be up way late in the night because I always am. I really appreciate. Yeah, and that's the same thing, Tyler. I don't think my emotions, emotionally, I don't see any difference in me when I was like 8, 12, maybe. I don't think I matured at all emotionally. I don't think anything's happened. Although, like I said, intellectually, I've learned how to deal with those emotions and learn to, well, I don't know if you say recognize them, learn how to fake it. Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Then maybe we can talk about doing some shows or something, because I'm excited about that whole prospect by all means. Anyway, I am going to get out of here. Let's see. I'm going to try out my new outro here. You have a good one, and I will talk at you soon.